Hello and welcome to another episode of the Backdoor Cup podcast. We are up in Sligo today, but we are speaking to Darragh Cregg from Roscommon about a huge fixture in Croke Park this weekend against Armagh. We talk about skill development, we talk about being a forward and being able to play off both feet. We talk about coaching development and we give our predictions for the coming weekend. So now, onto the podcast. Darragh, welcome to the Backdoor Cup podcast.
Thanks
How's
very
it
much.
going?
Yeah, all good.
Good bit of work this morning on the farm.
Yeah, a bit done now. So I'm happy enough now for the rest of the week. That'll do me.
Does your mind wander when you're on the farm to next weekend? So,
No, it's probably good that way. The old lad will be giving out to me a good bit now, so it kind of takes your mind off it for a little while. But sure. We've a great chance this weekend and looking forward to it. But it's kind of just keeping busy is the main thing for the week.
Days out in Croker are hard to come by.
Yep.
Aren't they, Darragh?
Oh.
Welcome back.
I was just thinking about it now up the road. Like, I've been in Croker once in 6 years.
And you won't be there this year?
I won't be there this year again.
We haven't seen you in a few weeks, I suppose. And today we're missing someone as well, actually.
Yeah, good point. He's been giving out to me about missing podcasts, so it's good to get back at him. I think he's on a 4-week holiday. He reckons it's a work break, but I don't think there's any work being done by the looks of it.
No, there's not much work being done on the back of a yacht anyway, I'd say, to be honest.
Drinking just.
Yeah, and topless photos. Plenty of them. Although you might be able to...
He hasn't eaten in 3 weeks. Trying to get the body fat off.
Every time we go for something to eat, he pulls out a lunchbox. But yeah, we'll have him back. Hopefully next week. We mightn't even have him back next week. We'll see.
No, he's extending again.
But unfortunately, we'll address the elephant in the room straight away. The reason you won't be in Croker this year, or one of the factors in you not making it to Croker this year, is the fact that Antrim went and knocked you out of the Talan Cup.
Yeah, it was extremely sickening, mainly because of the way the first half went. We were 6 points up half time, went 7, 10 minutes in the second half, and just completely capitulated in our home ground as well, which is even worse. But I suppose a lot of people have been asking, like, what happened is, but it's hard to put your finger on it in that situation. You're trying to kind of protect the lead, and the only way you protect the lead really is to keep the scoreboard ticking over as well, and we just didn't do that. We missed most of our chances in the second half. Probably shot selection let us down, decision making at times, and inability to keep the ball for more than 30 seconds. So it was just attack after attack for that whole second half, and as soon as a team gets any sort of momentum against you, it's very hard to stop it. And once that goal went in, it was nearly an impossible task to kind of to bring it back. So we thought about it too. It's like you nearly rather be in a game where it's tit for tat and it's 2-3 points in the game. You don't really change what you're doing, but when you go 6 up, you start probably changing what you're doing. You probably start sitting back a wee bit more. You start giving kickouts away easily. And then, as I said, the momentum just builds and builds, and it's very hard to stop it once it comes. And they probably got a really good response off their bench as well, which had a good impact on the game. And we probably didn't get the same impact. Me being one of them that came off the bench. But it's hard to take, because at halftime you're thinking, it's only natural human reaction to start thinking about Croke Park and start thinking like you're there. And probably most of the supporters even said that that's what they were thinking. So to go and actually lose the game was brutal.
Such an interesting contrast we have here now today, because you go up by a number of points, and then, as you said, your shot selection was poor, and as a result you're out, gone, championship over. Season is maybe determined as a little bit of a failure.
Yeah.
Versus you guys last week. We already touched on it off air. Shot selection was immense.
Yep.
A few wides. You went up early as well.
Yep.
Managed to get over the line. You're in a quarter final and have an opportunity now of having an incredibly successful year. In contrast to the start of the year, which potentially would have been viewed as a failure until this point.
Yeah, I'd say it's the opposite emotions now. But yeah, I think last week we were just on song with everything. So we always knew we have very good forwards, but it's the big problem we've had for the last few months, I suppose, is probably getting that real aggression and that physicality at the back, to give us that platform to get really good scores, because we know we can take them. Our efficiency was excellent the last day. I don't know the exact percentage, but I think we'd maybe 3-4 wides and 14 scores. So yeah, that was very pleasing. But yeah, once we got that aggression, that physicality really right the last day, I think it gave us a massive platform. So that's been the key for us. And I think the last time we really got that boost, or that kind of platform, was against Mayo last year in the championship, and we hadn't really been at that level, so it was good to get back there again, and loads of confidence then for what we need again this weekend. The exact same thing.
It's mental, really, isn't it? Because you looking at Darragh there thinking, I could have been in that position, and you're probably looking at Darragh also thinking, I wish I was in that position.
Yeah, and that is the key though. Like, it was nearly the exact same type of game in terms of you went and got a 6-point lead, and Tyrone came back. It is like any good team will, but you were able to keep the scoreboard ticking in that second half and just kind of keep them at bay the whole half. But it's also an interesting one. Like, you can have that you were talking about there in terms of like physicality and aggression. Like, you can have the best system in the world, the best tactics, the best forwards, but if you don't have that utter aggression and will to win, like, most good teams are going to pick you off, and most good forwards on the other end are going to pick you off. So that is the baseline, really. It's a non-negotiable.
Do you think that's one of the key things that maybe has changed in earlier in the season and last year? For the last few years, you've been thereabouts against those teams that are getting to semi-finals and finals and not able to get over the line. Do you think they have obviously potentially been more efficient in terms of their execution of the game plan, but maybe you were lacking in terms of your aggression and intent in comparison to them?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say we were definitely lacking the last couple of years in them departments. We have a big issue though in Roscommon is losing players. So we lose a lot of players every year. Even this year we've probably lost 3, 4, 5 potentially definite starters. Like, and that's been a big impact. But that intent and stuff is the main reason why we are where we are this year. I think we got the break of the ball in a couple of league games last year, which we didn't get this year, and we've played the top 7-8 teams over and over again. So we've played Mayo 3 times, Dublin twice, Tyrone twice. You know, we've played the top teams over and over again. So we've probably been a little bit unlucky in that in the league. I thought we definitely deserved probably some results. We probably should have got a win against Galway, which would have left us with enough points to stay up. But yeah, a lot of it comes back to that. It's just that real physicality and aggression and stuff, and that gives us that platform then.
But then looking at the match last weekend, the shot taking was insane, essentially. Like, the scores that were going over, they could be on a highlights reel at the end of the year as some of the scores of the championship. Have you been taking on those scores all year, or did you go out with kind of a focus of, all right, we want to have intent to take shots on when they're on and back ourselves to put it over from tight angles or from distance?
Yeah, I'd say we've been taking them all year, to be honest. It's probably just not when you win a game, it gets shown everywhere then. But yeah, we've been taking them on. There was definitely a kind of shackles off sort of approach to last week, because we got it against Cavan. We had a proper shootout, I'd say. Structure went out the window, really, and we had there was quality score taken in that too. And, you know, as I said, we're doing that every night in training. We've really good forwards that can score from all over, really, inside the 45. So yeah, it was that kind of shackles off approach that we went with the last day and just take on what we can.
So then, obviously, in the preliminary quarterfinal, you use that shackles off approach, and against Cavan as well, when your back's against the wall, you had shackles off, we might as well have a go here.
Yeah.
When you go into a quarterfinal now in Croke Park, are you focused on trying to play shackles off and a riskier style of football, or maybe risky is the wrong word, but a style of football where you do back your skills and you try to outscore the opposition, because you do have that repertoire of forwards in Roscommon, I suppose, that would challenge any team, really?
Yeah. I don't know if it's full shackles off now. The next day they're a different opposition again, and we always focus in. We do a lot of work, and Davey's incredible at that. Like, you know, in video sessions and stuff, we know exactly what the threats are from other teams. We know how we have to set up and stuff. And sometimes the game just flows. Sometimes I'd say the Cavan game, we didn't intend the game to flow like that. We didn't expect to concede 120, and we definitely didn't expect to kick 320. But sometimes the game just goes like that, and it just takes off. You kind of have to flow with it. And I think the same happened last week, probably because of that aggressiveness at the back or whatever. We got some really good breaks and probably capitalised on them breaks. And again, it was just the flow of the game, the way it went. We got a good few scores in a row there, and then the game probably changed in the second half where we had to control the ball a bit more. So it's just, you play what you see, and I suppose our older lads, our leaders, are the big drivers in that. They'll set us up for whatever we want to do. If they'll decide how the momentum of the game is flowing, and we try and address that then as it happens.
It seems to be with Roscommon, and maybe with the Connacht teams in general, you tend to do better in the games that do flow like that and that are end to end. Whereas when other teams try to slow the play down and make it a bit of a dogfight, that has been and is when you struggle a little bit. Do you think that comes back to the style of football that you try to play out here in Connacht and in Roscommon?
Yeah, possibly. I'd say the skill level in Connacht is quite high, actually. You'd see even in the club games, when the club year comes around, I think our Connacht club teams, would say, particularly Mayo, Galway, or Roscommon's club teams, seem to be at a very high level all the time, whether that be All-Ireland semi-finals, finals, etc. So, yeah, I think there's probably that natural kind of skill level and that want to play. Listen, everyone wants to play a great kicking game. Everyone wants to play that game that all the fans love watching, but it just doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's how we try and play when we get the opportunities. But again, it's just about managing that momentum and the flow of the game. So, yeah.
Darragh, when you come up against Connacht teams in the league, then do you consciously say, here, these lads want this to be chaos now and they want it to be a kind of flair game? Let's just dampen it down and slow it down and try and...
I can't remember the last time I played. I suppose you do when you come up against, it's not just Connacht, when you come up against a Munster team and maybe even some teams around Leinster, like, you know that they probably don't like playing against, I suppose it is kind of an Ulster, that is an Ulster setup, like 15 mind the ball. And most teams don't like playing against that. And they probably do thrive on chaos. It was something actually we talked about before we played Antrim, was they just thrive, like all of their games before that, they thrive in chaos, and Owen's touched on it quite a few times. And in that first half, like when we sat up and we just knew exactly how to play against them, they only got 2 points. Like, they were really, really struggling. So yeah, I suppose you try and play to your strengths, I suppose. But again, it's not a case anymore of you do that and you just win the game because they don't know how to play it. Like, Connacht teams, Munster teams have got a lot smarter. They know if the game ends up being chaotic, they're happy. They can play that way. But if it does end up quite a defensive game, then they know how to play that way too. They know how to break down mass defences. They know how to break. They know how to potentially match the other team and just play that way as well. So it's not as simple as just bringing chaos to a game or taking chaos away from another team and just winning the game. It doesn't really happen like that anymore.
That being said, this weekend you're probably expecting, as Tara just said, an Ulster setup against Armagh, and they'll probably try to bait you guys in, win the ball, and then transition quickly. You've obviously spoken about that in training. As a forward, you know it's going to be tight and space is going to be tight, but I saw at the weekend you were keen to take your man on quite a bit. If you win those one-on-one battles and those duels inside, does that kind of excite you for what's possible for you in that forward line this weekend?
Yeah, definitely. So that's probably the way I kind of tend to play my game, is maybe trying to be too exciting at times. I love coming away from a game and someone saying that some moment in a game or something they really enjoyed or kind of gave them that excitement. But yeah, that comes from them one-on-one battles. But I suppose the one-on-ones come from structure happens inevitably in all the games. And I think every team, I'd say across the country, spends a lot of their week working on how to structure attacks, and then that chaos happens on instinct. So them one-on-one battles are real instinct, I think. Once you get the ball and there's that bit of space maybe around the D or whatever, that's all down to your instinct, what you've done since you were a young lad. Yeah. So it's probably working on that structure during the week allows you them opportunities. But yeah, we know how good of a test they're going to be. They're an exceptional team with, again, they've probably exceptional forwards too, and they've a very good defensive structure. So it's probably two similar teams meeting, I suppose, in a way. But yeah, definitely would be looking forward to them different battles.
When you're going into the game then and you're focused on playing with instinct when you get the ball, are you thinking about how you can manipulate your marker? Or are you just saying, I'm going to get this ball, turn, and whatever is on, I'm just going to play?
Yeah, I'd say it's very tough to know what you're going to do. I don't think that happens. I'd say, yeah, it really is that instinct. Once you get the ball, you take your man on. It's whatever comes to your head, really. It's what you see at the time, and you can't overly train for that. I think it comes from training scenarios and working on it, and definitely being sharp is a big help in that. And maybe if you can train all year and you're playing games regularly, it makes a big difference to that as well. But yeah, it really is just that instinct. I don't think you can overthink. You can't be. You definitely can't visualize them one-on-one instinctive situations. So yeah, that's probably.
You've said you've played like that the whole way up.
Yeah.
At one point in your younger career or your underage career, did you ever think, like, I'm actually quite good at beating players here, so when I get the ball, I'm just going to try and beat them and go at goal or go and take a score? Was it ever a conscious thing, or has it always been innate?
No, it's probably been innate, I'd say, since as far as back as I can remember, under 12, under 14. I loved them one-on-one battles, and probably being able to use 2 feet was a big thing for me. So it didn't just come naturally. That's a lot of work it takes. But yeah, it's probably something that I enjoy, that situation that the defender can't know. You don't know what you're going to do yourself, so defender definitely can't know. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say it's been innate the whole way along. Probably more conscious of it this year or last year maybe is actually going at a man. I'd probably sometimes like to play on the outside and kick the scores from outside, whereas taking that man on and drawing contact and playing someone else through or something like that is probably something I've worked on this year and being conscious of.
Is that different to you at all? Because I know you would focus on your change of direction. You'd focus on how you're taking players on, throwing in a sidestep and then taking a score. And you've worked really hard at your athleticism and becoming a better player the whole way up through your underage career. So maybe it was something that you had to consciously focus on when you were younger.
It probably was, when it comes to that. Like, it's probably something you've heard me speak for before, but at 14, 15, I wasn't athletic. I would have thought of myself just as a decent footballer. And then once I started to develop, and I wouldn't say it's conscious in terms of, like, I went out thinking, right, I'm going to have to bring in a step here. Or, like, I always remember when I did play at like 14, 15, I was carrying a wee bit of weight. Like, I always had a dummy because I wasn't fast enough. And then once I started to get more athletic, that dummy just completely left me. I just started trying to, like, burn players. And but again, one thing I probably worked on a lot was, like, just a step, like having a step to be able to go past someone. But as Darragh mentioned, like, it just becomes unconscious then. Like, when I get the ball now, it's never a case of I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's just, where's my man? And you kind of just make decisions in that split second in terms of where you're going to go, because you kind of know you have the tools, I suppose. I suppose now, consciously, you're probably starting to think of other ways to create space before you get the ball, would be where the conscious thinking comes in. Like, a lot of the backdoor cuts and stuff like that doesn't come massively natural to players, and it's kind of been seen more and more over the last few years, and you've had to kind of coach it and think about it. But once you get the ball, it's just all muddled nearly in your head. Sometimes you get scores and you think, fuck, how did I even do that? But it's just unconscious because you've probably got the athleticism. The 2 feet kind of thing is something that always has interested me watching Darragh. Like, is that something you always had as a youngster, or is it something you consciously thought of developing at that young age?
Yeah, I'd say my dad probably coached us up to under 14, so he would have drilled me on that a good bit when I was younger. So I would have been, it's something simple. Like, we used to have a sticker on the wall. I just 50, 100 shots at that every night, and that's, that sounds kind of, everyone says that sort of thing, but that was the case. It was just sticker on the wall and 50 or 100 shots either foot off that. And then probably at times in under 12, under 14 sessions, maybe thinking, right, I'm just going to use my right foot today, or just going to use my left foot. So I was naturally left footed, so it was a lot more the right foot that I was working on the whole way up. And I'd say particularly around COVID time, or maybe the year around that kind of time, I would have put a lot of work into trying to kick frees with my right foot. And because I naturally kick frees with the left, so kicking the frees with the right probably actually brought on my kicking from play and everything like that. So I felt that had a massive impact. To the point now where I feel quite comfortable on both feet. I wouldn't say I'm brilliant on both feet now or anything like that, but I definitely feel if a defender is focused on my left side, I can definitely switch on to that right side. And I think, as Darragh said, that consciousness of creating space is definitely something that happens. Because of that structure, you have to be aware of how you're trying to create space. But once you create that space, then it's being able to exploit them attributes that you have and the athleticism that you have. So that's been important. But yeah, as I said, it wouldn't have been a natural thing. I know some players nearly within Roscommon, even they're almost ambidextrous, but that wasn't the case for me. Now it was definitely a lot of work on it.
So from what you're saying there is, when you're off the ball and you're manipulating space, you're thinking about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then when you see the opportunity or you gain possession of the ball, that's when you start playing on instinct. Now you're probably executing skills that you've executed in training and matches previously and backing yourself to do so, but you're not thinking about it at all. You're just seeing the picture in front and then reacting with the appropriate, I suppose, reaction to achieve success, either lay it off or score.
I suppose now that I think about it, like it's maybe not like that all like 100% of the time. Like, for example, if I get the ball and line someone up, I may consciously think, right, I'm going to go here to go there. So I suppose you're slightly thinking about it, but again, you've done it that many times that you're kind of just naturally doing that, if you get me. But again, it's about seeing the space and where the space is. But if you're off the ball and you're not consciously thinking about creating space, it's going to make it so easy for the defender. Like you see it at club level a lot, where a forward will just look at the ball, the man on the ball, and just make a straight line run straight in the corner. And if the defender has a bit more pace or even the same pace as you, he's going to get the fist in. So I think good forwards at county level anyway will be consciously thinking about out space most of the time.
When you're younger, does the coach ever stop play in a training session and just say, okay, show me where the space is? Because you know when you're younger and you're playing football or hurling and the ball is there, everybody just crowds to the ball.
Yeah.
Do you think it needs to be coached more the whole way up to see the space and play the space? Is it coached at all? Or maybe the best coaches are coaching it?
I'd say a lot of it, well, I think, in my opinion, a lot of it is just natural. Like that kind of identification of space is something you have to be conscious of, but either see the space or you don't probably. I think the biggest thing at underage is just skills. Just developing the skills is key. Under 12, under 14, under 16 even, it's all about developing both hands, both feet. And that awareness of space will probably come then as well. Because obviously there definitely shouldn't be structure at underage games.
There is.
Well, that could be part of the problem too, but there definitely shouldn't be that structure. And I'd say, it's very hard to coach that until you have all the skills. You can't be thinking about identifying spaces all the time and stuff. I'd say that comes later on in the game. It's probably something you just develop naturally, I suppose, as well too.
On the 2 feet and 2 hands thing, I don't think a lot of players do that, work on both, and I think every player should. And it always kind of allows me to reflect on an incident I saw with a coach where a player tried to kick a ball on his left and the coach, he kicked it wide, and then the coach said to him, this is just in training, why are you kicking on your left? Sure, you don't have that in your locker. And it just puzzled me as to, how is he going to have it in his locker if he doesn't kick it off his left in training? And then it just kind of spurred me on there, or evoked kind of a memory of mine when you said about the placed ball or kicking off both feet from frees. Johnny Wilkinson used to kick from the tee off left and right foot when he was coming up playing rugby. And it wasn't because he was ever going to kick off his right foot in a game, but he said that it helped him with his kicking out of hand and his drop kicking to just kick more balls off of his what was weaker side. And over time, he was able to iron it out. But I don't think young players are that clued into kicking off both feet and developing that skill.
Yeah. It comes down to, I think when you get to 13, 14, it's not that it's too late, but it's a lot of coaches won't want to like waste time or waste sessions because the player's nearly that bad with the weaker foot at that age that it'll just decrease the quality of sessions. It'll decrease the quality of maybe their performances in games, so they just ignore it. I think if coaches started bringing that in at 5, 6, 7 years of age and nearly just acted as if you didn't have a foot, like you just have to use both feet or use sessions where it's just all your weaker side, like it'd make a massive difference. Like it's nearly crazy to think that we've 2 legs and 2 hands and we just decide we're going to use one side like our whole lives. It's pretty nuts when you think about it. Like when you're first born, they're both the exact same at that age, so it'd make players a lot better, I think, and the quality of games and stuff would be a lot better if you had more players able to use both sides, I suppose. And the hand is a big one. Like even it's something consciously I've been trying to do more and more in the last couple of years, but it's the more intensity comes to sessions and comes to training, it's so hard to actually develop that now at this age. And there's so many scenarios in games where I've used my right hand and it hasn't come off when the left hand would have always been the best option. So yeah, I suppose for counties who maybe like my own county, if we're looking an edge, be getting coaches in at young ages and trying to get it developed.
You could probably constrain the game at youth level to say like everybody has to use their weaker or perceived weaker side.
Yeah.
Do you think if you constrain the game, even at inter-county level, and you said in a training session, we're going to do a game here, lads, but everybody has to use their weaker side, there'd be some lads that would get found out?
Oh, 100%.
What percentage of the team?
I've 30, 40 at county level.
Yeah.
I'd say 30, 40%. Well, maybe not that high, but a decent percentage. Like we would do drills where you have to kick a point off your weaker side, and it's nearly hilarious watching some boys like how uncoordinated they are on that opposite side. It's frightening. Like,
do you think it's one of the easiest ways to set yourself apart from the rest by being equally efficient off both sides?
I would say so, yeah. I think it's an important attribute to have. Is I think you probably need to work on it away from the game if you really want to, even young lads, young girls, whatever. If you're looking to develop your game away from training sessions, because look, it's tough for coaches when they're trying to run a 1 hour session maybe for underage games, maybe once or twice a week, and if everyone's coming in using their weaker foot and that's the only thing they're doing, you could spend an hour of a session working on the weaker foot and you'll learn nothing else about the game. So it's probably that thing. You have to probably do it away from the session. I think we're actually quite lucky in Roscommon. We have, whether that's been developed, it's probably through underage coaching as well and development squads or club teams. I'd say our lads are pretty confident on both sides. A lot of the lads will be in sessions and maybe it's just that kind of Connacht or Munster thing we were talking about earlier. I don't think that's strictly true, but you know, whether it's just they kind of naturally try and work on it.
But do you think that is, or it may be a factor in why you produce so many good forwards?
Possibly, yeah.
And you look down to Kerry, it could be a similar thing. Like,
it probably is.
Yeah, they might say their skill level's a good bit higher.
Well, they'd say that anyway, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say all our forwards would be comfortable on both feet. I like if you were to do a survey or whatever, or watch them, I'd say everyone's fairly comfortable on both sides, and yeah, that's probably an important thing. Yeah.
Just for younger listeners, then, what age do you think you should be thinking about that and doing it away from training? Because I'm conscious that if you're 5, 6, 7, you're probably not going to do extras away from training.
Yeah. I'd probably say as young as you can be, whatever. If you're 5, 6 or 7, when you have that, you know, it's the same with languages. You'd hear schools or whatever on about languages, that when you're trying to learn a language, the best time to do it is before 7 or 8 because your brain is still developing and everything. So yeah, definitely as young as you can be, I'd be trying to work on that. It should be, I suppose you could bring it into sessions and then try and get them working away from. It should be a big thing, is that be able to use both sides.
I think there's been a discussion too in terms of underage competitions, and I think there was talk of taking away any winning.
Yeah,
you couldn't win anything.
Scoring
and just put the full focus on skill development. But it probably does have an impact. Like coaches at that age are coaching them age groups, just wanting to win and probably not focusing enough on just purely skill development. Realistically, from 5 to 13 anyway, it should be just purely skill development, and that's it.
So they're taking away the scoring not for the players but for the coaches. Chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe, to be honest, because that is the worry, is like, look, there are going to be winners and losers. We always talk about it on the podcast, and you do have to develop some sort of a relationship with loss and failure as a young athlete. But it definitely is probably more so from the side of the coaching that it's missed that side of skill development, because it's like, give the ball to Johnny, lads, because Johnny's going to score 2-13.
I'm
We're
going to
win the game.
I'm going to win as a coach.
The under-12s county final, you know. But it might as well be the World Cup final for those coaches that are in it, because I suppose they're dedicating their time and their effort, so they want to have something to show for it. But realistically, something to show for it is probably having those players play the game for years into adulthood, rather than winning the under-14 county final or whatever it is.
They'd have much more of an impact if they seen 5 or 6 of their players at 21, 22 with an unbelievable skill level, instead of 3 under-12 titles and nothing else.
Yeah, true.
Definitely.
Just on that then, like, do you think that club coaches should stay with the age level that they're at, or should they stay with the team that they're at? So if that team progresses from under 12 to under 14, those coaches should go with them, or what will be the best way for skill development and to kind of probably get the ego out of it for those coaches?
It would be a good idea, but you obviously need to ensure it's a good coach. Like, when I think back to the coaches I had I hope they're not listening, but at under 10, under 12, 14, like, they hadn't a clue. And that was the God's honest truth. Like, no idea of skill development, probably didn't even play the game themselves. So if you get the right coaches in at that age, I think it'd be a great idea to have them work the whole way up the age groups and develop them properly, and probably create that relationship with them where they're comfortable.
We had this discussion with Conor Sweeney as well. Who is it on to develop that coaching ability then? Is it on the GAA? Is it on the county board? Or is it on the club? Or is it on all of them together?
Well, I suppose you have to remember too, it's voluntary. So it's obviously, I think, following the age groups and stuff is, or like, you know, having a strict coach for a certain age group sounds great on the surface, but you have to remember, like, a parent is coaching a team or whatever, and they want to see their children's games too, or want to be involved in that. So you have to keep that in mind too, that if they're following their child's age group up along, it's because they want to stay involved, and they want to see their child's game. They don't want to be up at an under 12 game while their kids are playing under 14 or under 16. So when you have a voluntary organisation, I suppose it's very tough to probably develop coaches into elite coaches. It's not a professional game, but
how do you help them to get better though?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose there probably is work going on, definitely, in developing them coaches, and it's probably above my pay grade now, I'd say. But definitely. I think, like we say, within Connacht GA, I know there's definitely work going on there's coaching workshops, there's different things going on like that to try and involve them younger age group coaches and try and develop them and make sure that they're feeding children the right information, you know. But yeah, again, at that age, it's really just about ensuring the coaches are really, really big on skill development and the rest.
Enthusiastic as well.
Yeah. The winning is important. Winning and losing is obviously important, like, but being enthusiastic, making the kids that want to go training or want to go playing games is brilliant. That's the main thing, I would say.
I suppose you don't need to be a good coach, really.
No.
You know, you just need to be able to have a relationship with young kids.
You want the kids to want to go training.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
That's literally it. And, you know, skill development's a fairly simple process at that age. You know, just get a ball in their hands, hand pass and kick pass in both feet, and then just build maybe intensity slowly as they get a wee bit older. Like, it's not as if you need to go into structures and tactics of games, you know, at all until maybe 17.
Yeah. Structures and tactics probably detract from skill development at that age level. The only problem that I've seen is with those coach development workshops, it's always the same faces that go to them.
Yeah, probably.
So if clubs or if the county board had the utility and the resources to do so, it might be an idea to have, say, an officer that goes around to a different group every session or every night, like that is employed, because you do have your CROs and your coach development officers that go around club to club, and maybe one within the club. But typically, if they're left to put on workshops, it's the same parents and the same coaches that go to them all the time, and the same other ones that maybe aren't interested in putting in extra hours because they don't have the time or the interest. They kind of slip through the cracks. Whereas if you go to them, it makes it a lot easier, and you're actually not making their job harder. You're actually assisting them by maybe even just saying, here, I'll take the warm up here. Then they have a warm up that they can go do for the next 6 months. So I think there is some way we could go about it, but it's a big thing this year is everything seems to be gone skill development. Last year was all speed. Before that was
3 years.
Now it's skills pay the bills, which is great.
Yeah.
It's probably an amalgamation of everything and a kind of a merging of them all that makes a great player, though. In relation to this weekend, you kind of brush it off at the start, but are you excited?
Oh yeah, sure, definitely. I'm buzzing. You know, you can hardly, we'll say after we beat Tyrone, you hardly sleep all night. Like, you know, you're thinking of the game and thinking of next week and everything. So it's really just about getting focused again and probably looking after the main things, which are sleep, nutrition, all that. Just kind of really focusing in on them to give yourself the best chance to perform. But you could not be excited going up to Croke Park to potentially play in front of 40, 60,000. Like, you know, it's it's brilliant. It's what you dream of, really. And when you're growing up as a child, you're watching the quarterfinals, you're going up to them. I remember going to semi-finals, quarterfinals, and they're the best days of my life as a child. Like, so to be there and hopefully give people that happiness is something that I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, I suppose showcase skills on the biggest stage is something that I'm really, really looking forward to as well.
I even have memories of of an All-Ireland quarter final for Armagh. The best memories I've ever had, like being up there.
What was that, 2011?
204.
204?
2004. Yeah.
We
got to an All-Ireland semi-final, and
younger.
All-Ireland semi-final and brought Mayo to a replay. So
What age were you?
5.
Yes, some memory on you.
I just remember I had a complete glimpse in my mind, like, of just being there at the quarterfinal.
I think so when you go in, we had a conversation about this before. So when you go in across the steps, when you go in over that and you see the pitch open up in front of you, I think you can be whatever age you want. That gives you that real buzz, I think. Yeah. And probably when you're playing, you don't get them opportunities to go up and watch games as much, or you probably mightn't get that buzz as much because you're watching the tactics of how a game unfolds or whatever. But I think once it gets to quarter-final, semi-final stage, it's very hard not to get that buzz, no matter what age you're.
Your energy has changed there since we asked you about it. Like, you are enthusiastic about it, but I can't help thinking, like, it's Thursday now.
Yeah.
And you're playing in 2 days. You're pretty relaxed about the whole thing.
Definitely, yeah, sure. There's big games and come and go, like, you know. So it's just nice to be there. It's as I said, it's what you dream of. And I probably don't overdo nerves or don't really get too wound up about games. I kind of take games for what they are. They're another chance to showcase your skills or whatever. Obviously you want the result to go right, but it's not always going to happen. I definitely hope it will this weekend, obviously, but I don't really get too uptight about games or that. I'd say the lads would probably say I'm quite annoying in the dressing room before games because I'd be smiling or joking or whatever, and I'd be like that way 5 minutes up until throw in or whatever. Once the national anthem hits, you probably really need to start focusing in or whatever, but I don't really play the game too uptight. I just kind of like to play off creativity and stuff, and it's probably something we have a very good psychologist there at Roscommon, Kelly is with us, so it's probably something I've definitely worked on. I suppose last year when I first came into the panel, you know, you're very eager, but you're also focused of like, see what other lads do here. I'll try and, you know, we've Jim Merthyr, the Smiths, or, you know, the two lads I've grown up watching. I'd be watching what they're doing before games and I need to copy them, I need to do whatever. Whereas it's probably a big thing I've looked at this year is what works for them isn't what works for me. I just really like to play the game kind of on creativity and enjoyment, and obviously you have to follow your structures and that, but it doesn't suit me to be kind of sitting with the headphones on, locked in the corner with 2 hours to go before the game. I just kind of like that buzz of travelling in and being relaxed and chatting or whatever. So yeah, I'd say some lads would definitely say it's annoying to the rest of them. I try not to take away from their kind of their pre-match build-up or whatever. But yeah, that's kind
As long as you're scoring, though, it's fine. Darragh, would you be like that?
I'd probably be similar enough, yeah. Again, probably wasn't always like that. I remember always the memories of like county minor, like trying to get myself psyched up, listening to music and full of adrenaline, even the night before or the morning of, and then you get onto the pitch and you just feel completely zapped of all energy. So again, everyone's different. I do enjoy kind of just being relaxed and nearly acting as if there is no game right up until, as you say, like nearly before the ball's thrown in. I feel like that gives me anyway, and probably other players, a better chance of performing, because you're not overthinking things and filled with worry and fear, because I feel like that's nearly the only emotions that are going to come if you do start thinking about the game, because you've absolutely no power of any situation in that moment until you get there, and you know the work's done. Like you've done the video work, you know where you should be, you know you're going to play off, as I've spoke about, kind of instinct when you do have the ball, and I suppose like in terms of kick-out structures, all that thing, that's already been talked about over and over again. So, and then there's going to be leaders in the group too who are going to probably talk in the dressing room and get you in the right frame of mind for the game, I suppose.
I say that preparation is key. Just on that point as well, is that's something that really gives me. So sleep and all that is so important. It's just that knowing that I've all them kind of basics done during the week is what gives you that confidence to be relaxed going into the game, because at the end of the day, it's an amateur game. You can't be, it's not life or death. It is to some people, and definitely, look, a result is very important, and it does no doubt probably change your momentum or whatever, or change your energy for the week if you take a heavy defeat, or if you take a loss that you thought we had a really good chance. That definitely probably drains you for the following week or whatever. But you have to remember that's an amateur game. It's something that we just screw up wanting to be there, so why not enjoy it? But yeah, I think that preparation is so important that Darragh talked about there. Like, is when you've really good coaches, which we have excellent coaches that nail the video prep, nail the kickouts, all that, it's up to ourselves to kind of perform then after that, and that's the key.
Definitely relaxed anyway. And like, I know it's because of all the work you've done previously in the background to set you up, and you might as well go in with that mentality for sure. But I just got to pull you up. You do get more serious as the week goes on. Are you aware of that? Like,
No.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're happy-go-lucky, and then as we get to Thursday,
You live with
Friday,
me.
Saturday, no, just from messages and the way you communicate. Generally, I do when I'm messaging you. I'm like, okay, Darragh's playing at the weekend now, so I'm just Thursday, Friday. I'm gonna be directing the communication, but less communication.
Suppose naturally it kind of just goes like that. Like, you just have a wee bit more focus. It's not that you don't think about the game, you definitely do. And again, it's probably just preparation, and it's during the week and come towards the end of the week, you're trying to get as much clarity as you possibly can on what you're going to be doing. And again, a lot of that is opposition kickouts, your own kickouts. It's when you're attacking, defending, all those just small things within a game. It's kind of being clear on that, being probably ready for training as well, maybe on a Thursday night or a Friday night before the game at the weekend. And then all the other small things like sleep and trying to nail probably reducing stress levels as well would be a big one for me, in terms of like the couple of days before the game, which is probably why I don't talk to you.
So I'm stressed out my brain 24/7.
You're sending me 7 messages in a row about a podcast, and I'm going, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. That's why I'm more conscious. 7 messages can go in a row Monday to Wednesday, but Thursday, Friday, I better make this one message.
You're blocked.
And I'll get a message back tomorrow maybe. Right, well, the weekend, I'm not going to ask any predictions of you, Darragh. Best of luck at the weekend.
Thanks very much.
Hopefully you can go and get a win, and geez, it'd be massive, wouldn't it, to get into the semi-final?
Yeah, it'd be, it's been everywhere kind of around Roscommon, as they're throwing out about, it hasn't been a win in Croke Park, or hasn't been probably a quarter-final win since 1980, I think is the last time we won a game in Croke Park, and it was won a quarter-final as well. So yeah, there's a bit of noise around that, but we're really looking forward to it.
It's good to make history though.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, And I think Armagh will probably be in the same boat as that. They haven't, they haven't been there since whatever, I don't know, it's 2005 or something like that. So that's definitely a narrative that's there going into the game, that both teams get to make a bit of history. So yeah, look, we'll see what happens.
What a game. It's going to be fast.
Penalty shootout. Where are you putting us?
I was going to ask you if you...
Right or left?
Chip it over.
If you wanted to make predictions, but I thought out of respect to Darragh, we might leave that one. Or do you want to make a prediction for the week?
No, we'll leave it.
It's not in front of Darragh.
Fancy Roscommon.
Dublin versus Galway.
If Comer and Walsh play, Dublin by 2. If it's, I think Dublin's gonna more than likely win it, but I think it'll be a good game if Galway have those men on the pitch. I don't know if Walsh will play or not. I don't know if Comer.
We don't know who's playing every week.
There's a chance neither of them could start, and the game could be gone at half time. I don't know. It's one of those games where you don't really know what Galway's going to bring, unless they have them men in the pitch. It's going to be a struggle, like we've probably seen in the league. They didn't probably perform as well as they probably thought they could have, but like they're two of the best players in Ireland, so most teams would struggle without them. But if they can keep it tight until the last 20, and then you've the two boys coming off the bench, it'll be a lot closer than probably people think it'll be.
We're not going to ask you to make any predictions or give any newspaper headlines or anything for the dressing room, because you're still in the competition, and hopefully you'll be still in the competition the following week as well.
Yep.
Donegal versus Louth.
Again, I think it'll be really close. I've heard a lot of people predicting that Donegal will win that easy, but I can't see it.
It's the same thing for Louth as what Darragh was talking about there. They're going in with the mentality, let's make history here.
Yeah. They've never been in the quarterfinal, never mind a semi-final. So what an incentive, like, to go. And again, we seen them against Dublin. Like, they brought Dublin down the stretch, which was absolutely huge and probably absolutely fills them with confidence going into this weekend, knowing they can bring potentially probably the best team in the country at the minute down the stretch. So if they can, they know of kind of previous games that they're good in them scenarios too, if it does go down the stretch. And Donegal, obviously, it's their first year really in a while challenging at this level, so I still think Donegal will get over the line, but I think it'll be tight in the last 5.
Kerry and Derry.
These predictions aren't easy, aren't they?
I'm laughing at you going to say draw, like you think penalty shootout.
Again, tighter than people think. I've seen predictions for Kerry to walk this game. I just can't see that either, given the amount of players that Derry have back now, and obviously again the momentum they've probably got from last week. So I'll go bold in this one and go for Derry.
Wow. Okay. It's going to be a great weekend. Looking forward to it. Darragh, thanks a million for coming in. Best of luck the weekend. We'll be shouting for Roscommon anyway, as will probably the whole of Roscommon's going to head up. So thanks for coming in. It's been a great chat.
No bother, yeah.
Cheers,
Thanks a million, lads.
Thank you.
Thank you.